What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Big Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. I wish you a Merry Christmas, but the Buccaneers and the Cardinals decided to take so friggin' long to play a friggin' miserable football game that it's actually December 26th by the time we went live on YouTube. Joining me to talk about Week 16 and recap it. One game left, of course, Monday Night Football. Ryan Wilson and John Breech. Happy holidays, boys. Merry Christmas.
Hey. And which elf are you, Breech?
He's an angry elf.
There it is.
I'm from the South Pole.
The South Pole. You're the South Pole.
South Pole elf.
Do you have a look quickly before we get going here? Because we got a lot to cover, Breech. Is that a onesie? You got footsies in that thing, or is that a two-piece?
It is a onesie, but no footies. No footies. You know,
sit on a throne of lies.
No footies. That's too
there's
bad.
no footies.
That's
I
not
cut
a one
footies
piece.
off.
It's
Too
an
hot.
interesting.
But it's
You
just
cut the
one
footies
piece.
off?
So it is a one piece, but no footies.
Yeah.
Did you really cut the footies off?
But
Just
there's
one
no
piece.
footies.
No footies.
And anybody who's listening to the audio version will have to look at the YouTube version so that they can see my amazing Christmas pajamas.
You dressed up for Halloween. You dressed up for Christmas.
Yeah, you're a big dress up.
Hey, if I have a reason to dress up, I'm going to dress up. That's just how it is.
I'm wearing red and green. I'm wearing got a little. This is my red. I actually got this quarter zip for Christmas for my parents. Before we dive in, by the way, shout out to, speaking of my parents, shout out Bob Brinson winning the Brinson Family Football League, Fantasy Football League, for the first time ever, unless Keenan Allen can score 55 fantasy points on Monday night, which seems unlikely. He will defeat a two-time champion and my first cousin, Aaron Brinson, who has more rings in this league than I do. Anyway,
I think it's telling that the professional in the family doesn't win.
it's quite telling, amongst other things. Anyway, speaking of rings, Tom Brady has 7 of them, and he will look to potentially add an 8th with a deep playoff run, although it seems less and less likely with each passing Bucs game. Although Tampa Bay finds a way to squeak out a win 19-16 in overtime.
Against Trace McSorley.
And the 4-win Arizona Cardinals, plus Cliff Kingsbury, of course. Brady 32 of 48, 281 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Look, we don't need to spend long on this game, and we can sort of parlay it in with the Panthers, because the Panthers are winners as well, beating the Detroit Lions on Saturday. With that win, now we have those two teams. Actually, I guess Tampa is still a game ahead. If Tampa had lost, they would have been tied with the Panthers at 6-9. They are currently 7-8. The Panthers 6-9. The Saints also 6-9, and the Atlanta Falcons eliminated from the playoffs 5-10. Technically, Tampa Bay keeping alive the hope that there won't be a team coming out of the NFC South with a losing record to win that division. But it really all comes down to next week when they play the Panthers. I believe they can clinch. They clinch if they beat the Panthers, and if not, the Panthers make it very, very interesting for Week 17. I mean, I don't even know what I want from this division at this point, Wilson. I know that look, again, give you credit. You said that the Bucs might find a way to win the division, but they would still stink. And boy, do they stink.
Well, let me put it to you. You can answer this, and then Breech can follow. Are you guys still of the opinion that, assuming they win this thing out, because if they had lost, then next week would have been the play-in game against the Panthers, are you of the opinion that any team that goes to Tampa Bay in the playoffs should be concerned?
I am.
Brinson.
Uh-oh. Tom
He's
Brady
having
got his
Christmas
microphone.
problems. His microphone's been drinking bourbon. You can't hear him. It's for the best. Wilson and I will host the rest of the show. You know what, Wilson? I'm slowly inching toward your school of thought here, because you've been saying all along the 5th seed should not be concerned at all. They will destroy the Buccaneers. Me and Brinson have been riding the horse that says it's Tom Brady. Tom Brady might be able to beat you. And again, this is the second straight week where we saw last week against the Bengals, he played a phenomenal first half, turned the ball over 4 times in the second half, they lose. This game, he plays 3.5 quarters of horrid football where he looked like Trace McSorley, which is an insult to Trace McSorley because he actually played well. And then something just clicked, and Brady just turns it on, throws for 162 yards in their final 3 possessions. They scored all 3 of those possessions, and he'd only thrown in 119 yards in the entire game before that. So it's like, if something clicks in the playoffs and he plays 3 really good quarters, then yeah, they can beat a 5 seed. So I would be at least mildly concerned if I am the Cowboys and I'm forced to go to Tampa Bay to face a guy in Tom Brady who I have never beaten in the history of my entire franchise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the hell happened to that microphone there. That was weird.
Brady got you.
Yeah, I mean, look again. I say these things, and you disagree with me, and you're like, "That's a stupid take." With the Cliff Kingsbury, I'm not caping up for Cliff Kingsbury and saying he shouldn't be fired. Like, I think in a vacuum, you fire him, right? But I think
you had sold yourself on Tom Brady though 2 weeks ago.
I'm of the opinion that if Tom Brady gets into the postseason, and the same sort of thing with Aaron Rodgers, you're talking about a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback in a conference where, because of injuries and because of just the parity involved, you've got teams like the Giants who might be in there. You've got the Eagles who have been fantastic and have look like they can win games even with Gardner Minshew, but Jalen Hurts is banged up. There's just all these injuries and all like I just don't think you can definitively say that a team that gets into the playoffs can't win the NFC. And that's just where I am at with the Buccaneers. I don't think they'll win the NFC.
Let me ask you this. What do the Buccaneers have to do for you to be like, okay, this team is terrible? Because I think they've shown us.
I think they're terrible. I'm just saying that if this bad football team wins 2 more games or wins 1 more game next week against the Panthers, and then again, like I think the Cowboys will be what's the line for the Cowboys? Cowboys at Buccaneers. I was texting my buddy Newman about it, and he was like, it's like 4, right? I was like, no, it's like 7.
7. Which what? It's plus
Cowboys,
7.
Cowboys minus 7.
No. Wins over Wilson
they're not
has
favored that much.
It's it might be Cowboys minus 2.5.
If it's okay, well then if
that's
it's
just
Cowboys
wins over Wilson. You're playing Vegas. You're not playing the sharps. You know what I'm saying?
If you believe that the spread will be Cowboys minus 2.5, then you are ipso facto agreeing with me that Tom Brady can in fact win a playoff.
I'm agreeing that. What are the opposite of sharps?
Squares.
I'm agreeing that squares like you think that Tom Brady can do that, and that's where I want to make the line enticing so they understand that it doesn't matter.
If it's 2.5, give me the Cowboys. If it's 2.5, I'm like, that smells. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it won't be 7. I think it. I mean,
no, it might be. But I think if it is 7, that doesn't make your point for you either.
No, I mean, if it's 7, it makes my point worse.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make a playoff run. I don't even know they'll make the playoffs. I hope they do for my own personal financial reasons, because I laid the lumber on Bucs to win the division with Brady.
I think that's the issue. I think that you are all in on this because financial.
But it's only.
Well, that makes me the odd third vote. Since you guys are
odd, go ahead.
Different sides of this argument, and again, I'm slightly on Brinson's side here more than I am your side, Wilson. Just because
you're wearing adult pajamas too. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah, and guess what? Oh! They're amazing. I'm going to wear them every day this entire week. I'm going to wear them till New Year's Eve.
All right, so let's move on from that.
And I'm not going to shower.
The Panthers, by the way, I mean, talk about pouring cold water on the Lions run.
Oh,
I mean, they rushed for a franchise high in rushing yards. This is a team that has had Cam Newton, had the combo of Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams,
had Christian McCaffrey.
Has had a long history of being a very good like the Panthers have always been proud about running the football a ton. They had John Fox for a long time and Ron Rivera. This is a run heavy team, and they ran for a franchise high in rushing yards against a Lions team that I don't think had allowed a 100-yard rusher in 5 or 6 weeks. Absolutely demoralizing. Dan Quinn said he called it an ass kicking but got out coached. He said I told Steve Wilkes you guys kicked our ass, and he's not wrong. So what does that game do to adjust? I mean, the Panthers are clear winners here with their, winning that game. You improve your playoff odds. You give yourself a chance to beat the Bucs and to take the division down. I mean, where do you guys stand on how much did that game alter your perception of the Lions and the Panthers and their playoff hopes?
Breach, that game for me and my Lions were a Christmas punch in the nuts because, as Brinson noted, Donta Foreman, ran for 161. Chuba Hubbard averaged 10.4 yards per carry. He ran for 125. On the other side, Jared Goff was the leading rusher with 15 freaking yards. So they couldn't stop the run and they couldn't run. Jared Goff's numbers were actually fine in terms of throwing the ball. So you do the math. They're not out of it technically at 7 and 8, but they've certainly complicated things. And I think Steve Wilkes should.
What? Are you about to say Steve Wilks should get the job?
He should have a legitimate shot at it. He ain't going to get the job. But, I mean, the way they're playing now is better than they played at any point under Matt Rule that I feel like.
You do realize what you said when Matt Rule got fired. And I'm
No, 100%. I don't think he's still getting the job. He should get the job.
So yeah.
But I'm saying I don't know what else this man would have to do. I feel like he should get the job, but I'm sure David Tepper and all his what's the word? Impetuousness will not be interested, and he'll be looking for some other shiny object.
Well, that's a whole different conversation because if the Panthers win this division and Steve Wilks doesn't get the job, that's just from an optics standpoint going to be a horrible look for the NFL.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, we do the Rooney Rule, and oh yeah, we encourage minority coaching, and oh yeah, the Panthers did not hire the guy who just turned around a team that looked just left for dead in October. And got them to the playoffs and won the division. I don't know how you can't hire that guy.
Especially after David Tepper fired Rod Rivera, minority, and then like basically just sort of blitzkrieged his way past the Rudy Rule and hiring Matt Rule, who is one of the most disastrous NFL head coaches in recent years. And Steve Wilks gets this team to the division. And if this guy gets fired after 1 year in Arizona and then half an interim year in Carolina, I agree with you, Breech. It's a tough spot.
That's going to be the whole basis. He already filed a lawsuit. He's just going to add the addendum. Like, hey, judge, you see my last season and they didn't hire me? Yeah, just send the money. Why are the winnings to me?
They traded Christian McCaffrey and I still won the division. Like, what do you want me to do? That is a whole different conversation. We could deal with that one down the road. And maybe that'll be a subject of a press coverage pod that we do. Hopefully not tomorrow. Maybe we can skip that podcast. But yeah, I mean, I think Carolina, I don't know, man. Carolina beat the Bucs once already. The Bucs stink. Carolina can win that game.
I sort of wish that the Bucs had lost tonight, so that game would because that game Carolina might have been favored.
Well, if Carolina wins, they have the sweep of the Bucs, and so they hold the tiebreaker. So they just have to win in Week 18, and they're in. But yeah, if the Bucs lose, if the Bucs had lost tonight. It would be Carolina wins and the Bucs are eliminated next week.
Right. It would have been a playing game for Bucs had they not won this week.
With the Lions, real quick, look, they had won three.
They were on
they were on a 3-game winning streak going into this game, and it really felt, like everyone jumping on the bandwagon, but it really felt like, okay, when there's actual kind of playoff pressure on you, because that's what this game really was, and you're playing outdoors. The Lions aren't a great outdoor cold team, and what's going to happen? And we saw what happened. I mean, they got destroyed. But
it wasn't
never close.
It wasn't the way you thought they couldn't tackle people. It wasn't anything that was because they were outside or because Jared Goff's numbers were fine. It was they couldn't tackle and they couldn't run, which are weird ways to sort of revert back to being sub-mediocre.
Where do the Lions playoff chance? Where are the Lions at now?
They're 100% in my heart.
Well, I mean, 100% everybody's heart. The Lions now are at 24%.
Not terrible.
Yeah, if they can still technically get in by going 1-1. Obviously they have to, but winning both, beating Chicago at home, then winning at Green Bay would jump up to 70% or so. And obviously eliminate the Packers from that spot. It's still, God. I mean, the Panthers. By the way, the Panthers still at Tampa Bay, at New Orleans. I mean, those are two tough wins. Like that's not going to be free at all. But yeah, the Lions. It does feel a little bit like, okay, maybe we got ahead of ourselves on Detroit making this crazy run to the playoffs.
If they'd won this game, we'd be having a different conversation. The Panthers have not been good for most of the year. They played.
Yeah, that's why it's weird to go down to Carolina as a favorite, like completely egg against the Panthers, and then.
And that's one thing, as Breech noted, like Jared Goff hasn't played well outdoors, but this wasn't about that. This was about somehow you forgot how to stop the run and run the football. And the weather was cold in Charlotte, but it wasn't Chicago weather. Or Detroit weather for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad weather everywhere, but Carolina. It was cold here. It was the coldest home game in Panthers history. But they're from Detroit.
It's all relative because the Dolphins also had the coldest game in Dolphins history, which was only our second coldest game, and it was 45? Only 45 or 46 degrees.
Yeah.
Staying in that division, I think you have to say that a winner from this weekend, maybe the biggest winner, easily the biggest winner actually, for me is the Green Bay Packers. This is a team that coming into the week, they needed a certain, like X number of things to happen to try and make the playoffs. This crazy run that they want to try and make. And like literally every single outcome of every single game that they needed to have go their way went their way.
You know what we call that in the business? The Brinson parlay. Like all the stupid things that you make up that have to happen, they literally actually happened.
Yeah, I should have done a Packers parlay. Maybe that's what I should do next week. The Packers now, I think Steven O sent out an email, 37% chance to make the playoffs. See 27% on 538. At any rate, I mean, like they were at like sub 10% coming into the weekend. They're by beating the Dolphins, they have to. The two scenarios that they have to have happen. They need two things to have happen. One, they have to win out, and then two, one of two things: either Washington loses a game, or the Giants lose both games the rest of the year. If one of those two things happen and the Packers win out with 2 games at home against Minnesota and Detroit, the Packers are in the playoffs. And man, I tell you what, the Packers haven't looked good either. But similarly to the Tom Brady stuff, you put the Packers in the playoffs. Like maybe it doesn't matter if they play if like San Francisco gets the 2 seed and they have to go to San Francisco and they just get absolutely blitzkrieg by Kyle Shanahan and company, as they have many times in the playoffs in recent years. It feels like, but you put Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs with no, as you would say, Wilson, no business being there, and it feels like he could kind of make some noise.
But is this the same? And I know I said this last week or the week before. I said, who you taking, Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady in a neutral field? I don't remember which side of it came down on. I would imagine that the Packers were the favorites, but I could be wrong. But it feels like at least there are people around Aaron Rodgers making plays, whether it's on offense with Christian Watson, for example, showing up lately, or on defense where they're making Tua Tagovailoa look like Mac Jones, which is a harder upper head around. But I feel like at least that the Packers have at least something to work with, even though they're like every other team at this point, just beset by injuries. It feels like the Buccaneers do not want to be out there from top to bottom, whereas it feels like the Packers, despite Aaron Rodgers being grumpy or whatever, making Wilson faces half the time, he finds ways to get his teammates involved and they make plays for him.
His team definitely made some plays for him today with defense picking off 2-3 times. But look,
I mean, just 3 terrible interceptions too.
I don't know what was going on there.
Gifts. Those were Christmas gifts from Tua to Green Bay. But look, they've won 3 games in a row. And no, I don't think any of them were overly impressive. Beating the Bears isn't that great. Beating the Rams isn't that impressive. And then having Tua gift you a game. But it doesn't matter because they're in the playoff race. And that is all that matters here. And it's.
But wouldn't you feel better, Breech, if the Buccaneers had won games like this as opposed to doing what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But I agree with you. I think the Packers are a better team than the Buccaneers, which isn't saying much because the Buccaneers aren't good. But you just look at how does Green Bay match up in week 17 against the Vikings? If you start looking forward, it's just that's not an easy way to finish the season when you have to face Minnesota and Detroit. Although having both of them in Green Bay is definitely a plus.
I don't know, man. I mean, look, I understand those are 2 playoff caliber teams. Like Minnesota's already in, and the Lions are right there in the hunt, tied with the Packers. But those are 2 teams that because of these division rivals and because of the way that Aaron Rodgers has played against division rivals over the course of his career, and he's at home. And again, he just has that look about him. And they didn't win convincingly in Miami. It took Tua completely melting down to give him the game. But Rodgers at home against division opponents, with knowing what's on the line, I am not unhappy with my Packers futures that I placed a few weeks ago.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if you should. That's fine. You can be optimistic about it, but
I'm not. I don't. They're not like.
I'd feel better about those than the Bucs ones. How about that?
Well, I mean, the Bucs ones is just to win the divisions, so that's
all right.
Win the division, and then you go do whatever you got to do, Bucs. Do you? I'm trying to see if there's a cash out option. I was going to see because they, sometimes we'll do with the cash out option. You can it'll. Let's say you bet $10 on it to win whatever. They'll be like, you can cash this out for $300. If like the Packers were 1 game away from the NFC Championship, they'd be offering like, I was trying to see what the odds were, but it's not up. So, yeah, Packers, Dolphins. Do you feel good about? How do you feel about the Dolphins?
Bad.
Pretty bad, I mean, it starts with the quarterback, and the first, 35 minutes, he was like, okay, it looks like Tua. He throws with such crazy anticipation that I think sometimes what happens is when he throws when Tyreek's or Jalen whoever is, 45 feet from making their break, and it's amazing when it happens. When it doesn't happen, it looks like those god awful interception, those arm punts he was throwing. So it's like there's no in between with Tua, and that's the problem, I think. And I think Breech is right. It's troubling because they ran the ball and they ran it okay when they ran it, but then those sorts of mistakes, and they let the Packers sort of hang around. And that's on the defense as much, as in the first 3 quarters. And then Tua just said, all right, watch this. And it just went sideways in a hurry.
Do you think, Breech, that this is sometimes we struggle to do this in a week-to-week league like the NFL. But if you told the Dolphins fans they're 8-7, heading into the final 2 weeks of the season, that Tua has played at a Pro Bowl level. He made the Pro Bowl, right?
I don't know.
As the first alternate.
I'd rather play at an all-pro level, but okay.
Point being is that like I think Tua's played well this year as in totality, even if the last month or so hasn't been great. And the Dolphins are 8-7. They're in a very good position to make the playoffs. Like, don't you think people would look at the Dolphins and say, okay, this is an overall good season as long as they get to the postseason? I mean, you're talking about coaching his first year and a quarterback who people thought might be drafting somebody this season.
Yeah, if they get to the playoffs, I think that people will say that because that's going to mean they win one of these final 2 games. But if they end the season on a 6-game losing streak, then Mike McDaniel is back right where he started when he took the job, which is, do I have a quarterback? You have to ask yourself that if you end the season on a 6-game losing streak because Tua's throwing 3 interceptions against an average Packers defense that were all pretty bad interceptions, that's a problem. And look, Tua has looked amazing at times this year. I mean, he's been throwing dimes. We all laughed at Tyreek Hill in July when he was talking about Tua's accuracy, and then Tua went out and showed that he does have really good accuracy at times. He's just so streaky, and we saw him kind of hit rock bottom in this Packers game. So, man, the Dolphins will be in a tough spot if they end the season on a 6-game losing streak.
Really quickly, because
fun fact, this was the first time they've gone winless in December since 1993.
Wow, that's a fun fact. Let's just not that these 2 teams matter because they're both out of the playoffs, but it was on a Christmas Day game. Tua, who made that graphic? Tua turned the ball over. That's pretty good. It's clever. I like that. Very funny. Broncos and Rams. Give me one word to describe that. Literally one word.
Dookie.
Very, very.
You can't get a 51 burger hung on you if you're Russ Wilson. Like Russ Wilson, there's something going on there, and I don't know if he's injured. I don't know what it is, but you guys can say all you want about it's like the Cliff Kingsbury conversation. You can go ahead and bring his ass out there next year and see what happans.
How about Nathaniel Hackett growing the goatee? It's like, do you think that was going to fix your problems, buddy?
It's like Greg Williams when he tried to go incognito after he got in trouble for the bounty gate.
He showed up with like dyed hair and a goatee. It's like Hackett, she literally grew a goatee in between, as just like trying to motivate himself in the morning.
Looking like Fletch trying to be undercover.
Yeah,
we know.
What's your one word? What's your one word for that game, Breech?
Disaster.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great word. I would say repugnant.
Ooh, I like it.
It was
Somebody
30...
got a word of the day calendar for Christmas, Breech.
Repugnant. Come on, man.
Tua is definitely better than Russell.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it.
Everyone would take Tua over Russell.
Tua right-handed is better than Russell right now.
I take Tua kicking the ball over Russell Wilson right now. Russell Wilson threw 2 interceptions for the first time in his career. Obviously, again, I don't want to wait on this game at all.
Wait, that's not true.
In the first quarter for the first time in his career.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry. That the first half.
I've seen him play
for the first time in his career. Yeah, 2 first quarter interceptions for the first time in his career. They lost 51-14. Neither team is involved in the playoffs. Rams 5-10. Broncos 4-11. Cam Akers 3 touchdowns. Tyler Higbee 2 touchdowns. Baker Mayfield, man, 24-28, 230, and 2 teeters. But yeah, this is nothing more than like you were not worried about chatting up your family members while this game was going on. Like, you weren't worried about paying attention to this game after about the first 15 minutes. It was like 30-6 at halftime. So
the only people pay attention to this game are the Waltons, and when they're determining what to do with Nathaniel Hackett.
Well, I mean, I think that's already
and fans of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, right, that's right, because Baker won the Mitch Trubisky Award. So congratulations to
the
Baker.
MVP. I'm actually upset that I forgot to put it on Nickelodeon. We had a bunch of kids in the room too, so I'm a real Scrooge.
I put it on. My 2-year-old doesn't really pay attention to football, obviously, but all of a sudden there's bright colors everywhere and slime and Christmas tree. She starts pointing at it. What a hit. that game was. In my
I feel like a dum dum for not doing that. Much more entertaining game from a emotional standpoint and entertainment standpoint. Saturday night football close. I mean, not that we needed a Saturday night Christmas Eve game, but we got one anyway. As Breech pulls out the tissues for God knows what reason.
He loves Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, he's getting upset about Kenny Pickett. How about your Steelers, Wilson? They're not dead technically in the playoff hunt. 13-10 win. Kenny Pickett on Franco Harris night. It was a pretty cool scene.
Yeah, I mean, it was great that it was supposed to be the sort of the 50-year anniversary. It wasn't for 50-year anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. Unfortunately, Franco Harris passed away a few days ago unexpectedly. So that was sort of the rallying cry for the Steelers. But they didn't show up offensively until the very last drive. It was 8 degrees. I don't know if that mattered or not. Maybe it did on some level. I think Matt Canada probably had more to do with it offensively. Derek Carr is absolutely terrible in cold weather and
cannot play in cold weather.
And he should have won that football game. The last drive, the Steelers managed their way down the field. And look, I'm not a super genius, but I wouldn't leave George Pickens wide open on a 14-yard touchdown throw. I mean, he couldn't have been more wide open. Brinson, you could have made that throw, and Breech, you could have caught it if you were running the route. But there's nothing to take away in terms of feeling good about the Steelers long-term offensively. I still think you have to figure out what to do with Matt Canada. And, everything else was fine. I mean, the defense actually balled out. They intercepted Derek Carr 3 times. The last one was at the end of the game on a overthrow that Hunter Renfrow actually, if it had been a good throw, could have set them up for the game-time field goal. But I don't think you have to feel great about this if you're the Steelers or Steelers fans, because the offense was absolutely non-existent until the final 2 or 3 minutes.
That was a fun game, though. I mean,
it was fun. The last drive especially was fun. I
Steelers fans sitting through that. And you know what, Ryan? I'm actually surprised you didn't start this off by saying, you know what, guys? There's a path.
No, come on.
The Steelers are eliminated.
What is the path for the Steelers?
The Steelers are not eliminated. Well, obviously, they have to win out.
Yeah.
But they have the worst conference records of the 4, 7, and 8 teams. That's a problem.
Well, right. So they need the Dolphins to lose out. And then the other teams have to lose at least one game. The teams are tied with. So the Jets would have to lose. And the Patriots.
And the
Patriots have to beat the Dolphins because the Dolphins have to lose out. But then the Patriots have to lose in Week 18 to the Bills. It's convoluted. There's a path.
Well, they still have to beat the Ravens and the Browns.
And the Steelers have to win out, obviously.
If the I've got it here, just looking. If the Steelers win out and the Jets. Oh, here it is. It's pretty easy, actually. Patriots have to go 1-1. Have to beat the Dolphins, lose to the Bills. Dolphins lose out. Steelers win out. Jets lose to Seattle and beat Miami. Steelers are in the playoffs.
Yeah, well.
That's not that complex. I mean,
as Nathan mentioned in the comments, the Steelers have a path to a losing season. I think that's correct.
I think the Steelers are going to get that winning record.
I don't know what makes you guys feel that way.
Do the parlay right now. Do the Steelers parlay.
Steelers playoff parlay.
He ain't doing it.
Steelers playoff parlay.
He's all bluster.
Actually, I don't know how.
He's all Kenny Pickett bluster. I'm
a single QB right now. I'm a single computer right now. I'm not loading up a 3-week parlay to try and figure out how the Steelers make the playoffs. But the odds are pretty long. Elsewhere, Saturday, I think Kenny Pickett and the Steelers and Franco Harris night, all winners in everybody's book. With the way that closed out on Christmas Eve, very cool moment.
Is anything happening with Derek Carr and or Josh McDaniels ahead?
I think Derek Carr is going to be gone.
At which interception do you think Josh McDaniels was like, this guy's gone? I'm not coaching this guy next year. I'm not coming back next year. If this guy's my quarterback, I'm out. Second one, probably the second.
I think Derek Carr's gone.
All right, he'll land somewhere. And
but the one thing there, I think Florio noted this over the weekend, that with the way his contract is structured, the Raiders have to make this decision like within a week after the Super Bowl. So
good. We can get that
not when the new league year starts in March, but once contracts.
I think Derek Carr's out and Thomas Edward Brady is in.
Ooh, Brady and McDaniels in Vegas.
Yeah.
Oh, what about Aaron Rodgers?
I think that it'll be Aaron Rodgers is hard to pull off with the contract, and Brady and McDaniels have that. But I think that's on the table. I think one of those two guys is coming to Vegas next year.
It's Christmas, so I'm not even going to argue with you.
All right.
Christmas.
Yep.
Where do you want to go next? I don't really have a. I'm trying to look at.
Here, I'll give you one of my winners.
Yeah, give me a winner.
And this is a pure slap in the face to old Billy there. The old Minnesota Vikings will not go away, and the Eagles peed away that game to the Cowboys. Gardner Minshew did his thing for a little bit when he out Dak Prescott. Meanwhile, the Vikings continue to win football games.
They were 11-0 in one-score games. That is so effing outrageous.
I think it actually, at this point, I keep saying it every week, I think it actually is sustainable because they keep doing it. So maybe it's sustainable. So, I mean, they could mess around and get that number 1 seed if they keep going down this path because they don't lose close games. And I know Vikings fans will argue that point differential doesn't matter. And I would argue the same thing because it doesn't appear to matter right now for Minnesota. But they won, the Eagles lost, and now they're only one game separates them between 1 and 2. Because we were talking about the 49ers are going to get the 2nd seed. Well, that may be off the table, or at least a slightly more difficult now. But yeah, so the Vikings are a winner for me.
And you know what's crazy about it's not just these 1-score wins, which, by the way, now they have 11. That's the most in NFL history. It's the way they're happening. I mean, are you kidding with beating the Bills on a fumbled snap at the goal line? The largest comeback in NFL history against the Colts, and then having your kicker hit the 4th longest game-winning field goal with no time left in NFL history. Those are 3 of their wins this year. It doesn't make any sense at all that they keep winning games like this. It is. And
by the way, had that game been at MetLife, you're not making a 61-yarder this weekend. Nope. If it just happened to be outside. Now the other thing,
those are like 3 of the craziest outcomes. Like,
and Greg Joseph nailed that kick. By the way, I mean that thing's good from like 65. He crushed it. It was just, I mean, man.
Did you like? I watched. Oh, by the way, if you have Paramount Plus, people, and I don't know if Billy's giving a gift card tonight, you can watch Top Gun Maverick, which is out. I watched it over the weekend with my family, and I was
seen it.
No, I don't go to the movies, so I watched it on Paramount Plus. And Breech, I mentioned this because I got a little choked up because it was nostalgic. Do you get choked up when people like Greg Joseph smoke 61-yard field goals for game winners?
Of course I do. Are you kidding me? So as soon as a team gets to like the 45, I'm literally, and it's 4th quarter, under a minute left, I'm like, please don't gain any more yards. Don't gain any more yards. I want to see a long field goal attempt. So I start rooting for it to be between 60 and 65 yards. And so when Joseph went out there, look, Joseph is all over the place from long distance. You don't know what you're going to get. But man, to his credit, it was just a great kick. And the fact that the Vikings won this game, the Giants looked like a playoff team too. I mean, they looked legit. I thought they went toe to toe here. This was one of those games where I thought their offense played well. I thought Daniel Jones looked good. We don't compliment Daniel Jones too often on this show, do we? No, I'm going to give Daniel Jones a compliment for looking good today.
We've taken it easy on this show.
I did HQ on in between the 1 o'clock and the 4 o'clock games on Saturday, and I pointed out that Hassel asked me about the Giants. It's like, what do you do about that loss? I was like, look, to me the Giants, I think however they finish the season, whether they get in the playoffs or not, whether they go 1-1, 2-0, 0-2, whatever it is, like you have to feel good about where this franchise is going if you're a Giants fan. I mean, Brian Daboll is clearly a very good coach, and he got the most out of Daniel Jones. And I think I would just feel good about it. By the way, here's a little couple of hellscape scenarios for old Billy Boy. 49ers win out, Eagles lose out, Vikings go 1-1, Niners get the 1 seed, Eagles get the 2 seed. Oh, no, Vikings go 1-1, Packers beat them. Green Bay coming, Aaron Rodgers coming to Philadelphia for a freaking wild card weekend game. Or if you want to get real weird, there's a path where if the Vikings win out and the Niners win out and the Eagles lose out, the Eagles could be the 3 seed in the NFC, which is like if the Eagles were the 3 seed in the NFC after the way that they played for 99% of the season, or 90% of the season, I guess, it would be so devastating.
It would be devastating. I mean, you still face right now you'd face the Giants.
Yeah, it wouldn't be that bad.
And the thing is, it's not like Tua Tagovailoa going in the tank. It's Gardner Minshew coming in for Jalen while he gets healthy. Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
control Billy.
Right, fair enough. Yeah, Billy, you can when you stop crying, let us know.
Billy,
I'm not crying. I'm not crying.
Hey, while you're here, just go and pop on. We'll talk about the Eagles.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
I'm not crying. It's like the mask cover. He's like, I'm not crying. I'm smiling.
You want to stand, as the kids say, for Gardner Minshew and the Eagles?
Yeah, talk to us about we're getting out. We're getting this podcast is 15 minutes or less. So you say whatever you want to say about the Eagles and the Cowboys, and we'll just move on from that game.
This is the only thing I'm gonna say. The mere fact that we started Gardner Minshew, had 4 turnovers, and at the end of the game still had a chance to win says a lot. We didn't hear Micah Parsons' name the whole game until the last 4 minutes when Lane Johnson got hurt, which is a big thing for the Eagles. Like, if he can't play, it was an abdominal injury.
If Lane Johnson's hurt, it's a big problem.
You didn't hear Micah Parsons' name the whole game until he left. Like that like he hasn't let up a sack in 2 years. Like, he's one of the best tackles in the game right now. So losing him and then losing Avonte Maddox earlier in that game really hurt, the Eagles defense, because Avonte Maddox made a lot of big plays in the beginning of that game, but then they started putting CeeDee Lamb in the slot, and CeeDee Lamb ate, and it helped them and aided in them staying in this game. I'm not worried as an Eagles fan for us to just be in that game for however the events occurred. I'm not worried. I feel like if Jalen plays that game, we don't have 4 turnovers. Even the running backs fumbling the ball, I don't think that happens just because, they're used to the way Jalen hands the ball off and things of that nature. But for me personally, I had a great Christmas. That Eagles loss didn't hurt my heart at all. And I'm ready for my team to gear up for the playoffs. So,
all right.
Your eyes are red, but okay.
Yes. Hand Billy some tissues through the StreamYard. Anything to take away from Dallas here? I mean, they're the 5 seed. It's just like, who are they going to get? And then
Dallas feels a lot of ways like the Vikings, but they're the bizarro Vikings, and they lose the games that the Vikings are winning. Like, Dak ain't playing great. And that's a problem. Like, we talk about Mike McCarthy being a problem, and who was it? I don't know.
Dak has like. He has because Dak is because he's a Cowboys quarterback, so it's like every talk show, specifically one with former Cowboys beat writer of notable report, who likes to take pictures of himself shirtless and have his wife film him freaking out over the Cowboys losing. It's Skip Bayless, whatever, but it's like,
I thought it was you. I was like, wait a second.
But it's like people argue about Dak all the time. He's very polarizing because he's a Cowboys quarterback. It feels like that game had everything. It was like he helped both sides of the argument. Like, he's like, at certain points he looked incredible, and then at certain points he looked like absolute dog crap. And so I just don't know what we're going to get in the postseason with Dak. But I mean, they're definitely going.
Hey, Breech,
wasn't it? I would say, like, wasn't it questionable when you saw like the Cowboys get deep into the red zone and like coming away with 3 points even off of short fields? Like, isn't that alarming? And like, the fact they were able to move the ball so easily throughout the whole game, and then they got to the most crucial point in the field and they weren't able to capitalize on that. I feel like that's the alarming thing.
Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy are not very trustworthy.
Well, and that definitely plays into our earlier conversation about Tom Brady and the Buccaneers about, could the Cowboys lose? Yeah, because the Cowboys do dumb things a lot, and you're just like, oh my God, how that happened? That Dak's pick sick. What the heck just happened there? Mike McCarthy makes at least 3 crazy decisions that no one understands in every playoff game he's ever coached in. You don't know what Kellen Moore is going to do. And there's just so many question marks with the Cowboys. They're talented, but they just sometimes get in their own way.
Here, let me ask you guys this. So let's say Jeff Saturday gets the job in Indianapolis next year, which it'll be a 20-year deal. Let's just assume that. Would you rather have, as your quarterback for the next 5 years, the roster's the same, everything else, Derek Carr or Dak Prescott?
Dak Prescott.
Yeah, Dak. I think Dak easily.
All right.
I Dak can play in the cold. We've seen Dak excel in the cold.
They play indoors in Indianapolis. Unless they're going to make them play outside because they're playing so poorly. All right.
All right. Dang. That's enough for the Cowboys and the Eagles. Why don't we take a break?
Bye, Billy.
We'll wrap up the rest of the games next. All right. Give me a winner, Breech, or a loser, something. Just move this podcast along. Something we haven't talked about. Oh, actually, you know what? How about the Titans? You're muted, so maybe you're going to say your Titans, your Nashville Titans.
Oh my God. I don't know what is going on in
Breech, let
Tennessee.
me stop you.
Everyone's injured. Everyone's
The
injured.
city of Nashville is losers for having to delay the game because they didn't know how to use power properly.
Don't even get me started on these rolling blackouts. Nashville didn't tell anyone these were going to happen. Just Friday, my electricity went out. And I'm sitting there thinking it went out because it was so cold. It doesn't get down to 0 degrees in Nashville ever. I think the last time it happened was 1996. So we're talking, it had been a long while. So I'm thinking, oh crap, now we've got a 2-year-old with us. Our electricity's out. We're going to freeze here. This is going to be like the day after tomorrow. It's going to turn into a Donner Party situation. It's just going to be a disaster. No, we don't have a fireplace.
All right, but you got some onesies. Maybe you should.
Why do you have onesies? We're gonna put a onesie
Maybe you
on
should
everyone.
cut the feet off the onesies if you're worried it was going to freeze.
So anyway,
put the hood on.
I can't because my earpiece is in my way. But
there you go.
That's on Friday where they black you out. They turn electricity off for 10 minutes every hour for like 5 straight hours.
Is that right? 10 minutes for every hour.
And then
developing country.
And then when they turn electricity back on, like your internet has to turn back on. That takes 5 or 10 minutes for it to get going. And then by the time that happens, you're 40 minutes away from having it shut off again. So it's just like, oh my God, what's going on? And then they do it Saturday. And I'm like, what's happening right now is just emblematic of the Titans season. The Titans are Nashville. Ryan, but that one time you said the team doesn't fit in Nashville. This weekend they did because the Titans are falling apart without telling anyone. And it is just, they're not going to win games with Malik Willis. I mean, if you have Derrick Henry go off for 126 yards and you still lose, that's a huge problem. And so there's nothing you can do except pray that Jacksonville plays the worst game of their lives in week 18 when the AFC South is on the line. But this team is not good enough to beat anyone right now. They just lost the worst team in the NFL. So by ipso de facto, that makes them the worst team in the NFL.
I think it's ipso facto, but
ipso facto, they're the worst team in the NFL.
Ipso de facto.
Stuck some extra syllables in there. You're so cold from having the power turned off. So, Breech, I'll be honest, I didn't watch 1 second of this game, but I'm looking at the stats. It wasn't like the Texans ran all over them. Royce Freeman led the team with 32 rushing yards. Davis Mills only threw for 178. Like I'm trying to figure out how they lost this game.
Malik Willis is just not
only 99 passing yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. And as Breech mentioned, Derrick Henry went for 126, but it didn't matter.
Yeah, and actually the Texans didn't even start on. They didn't have they had a couple spots where they're like at the 37, the 38, the 42, et cetera, et cetera. So like they did, they had some pretty good field position. It's just Tennessee looks like, and we go back and we talk about it. We look at the schedule. It's like the teams they beat this year are just not that great. They just
that's fine if you have Tannehill there because there's a chance. Last year they won 12 games. They're the number 1 seed. That's hard to wrap your brain around. But if it's Malik Willis, as Breech noted, that's a wrap. I mean, do
you guys, if you're Mike Vrabel, and Vrabel said he's likely to do this, which is Breech and I talked about this in the odds. But like, if you're Mike Vrabel and Doug Peterson, do you rest guys in week 17?
Why is Mike Vrabel resting guys? You're trying to make the playoffs.
The week 17 doesn't matter for either of those teams. The only thing that matters is winning week 18 and getting the division.
Oh, I see. Next week and then the week after you play. Gotcha. Yeah. I guess if it doesn't matter, then why would you take guys out there?
Yeah.
There's no reason for it.
Rest everyone. Cowboys by 40 on Thursday night.
That's notable for people who like to gamble on football. That you may want to look at. That.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think they make the playoffs? The Titans?
No, I think the Jaguars win.
Yeah, but you said week 18 is all that matters.
Well, they're either gonna win the division. Week 18 is gonna be Sunday Night Football. Jaguars Titans.
Oh, that's the Jaguars game.
Yeah,
okay.
And it's just whoever wins the division is in the playoffs. I think Jacksonville wins it.
All right, that's one loser. Another loser that I had, but we already talked about, is Tua. I don't know if we can talk for 2 minutes about whether are we at the point where
the
Dolphins?
Let's cover the rest of the games. I mean, with Tua, I don't disagree. I mean, I don't think they're not rethinking the Tua thing at all.
All right, that's fine. All right,
I mean, I really want to finish in 50 minutes.
Great, I love it. What's next? I love this New Year's.
I got a loser.
All right.
The kickers in the Bengals-Patriots game. Look, we saw Joe Burrow go off for a half, and then we saw the Patriots get crazy for a half. That's how you almost blow a 22-0 lead. But somehow every kicker, Nick Folk missed 2 kicks. Ed McPherson missed 2 kicks. It was just missed kicks everywhere. And because of that, the Patriots were still in the game at the end. And then Ramondre Stevenson fumbled at the 5-yard line. This was just a nutty, bizarre game. And it was another one of those games where you're like, who's coaching the Patriots? How are these asinine mistakes happening with Bill Belichick as coach? It just doesn't make any sense, especially to see this happen 2 weeks in a row where they just, these improbable losses. I mean, I will say that, you guys will ask me during a Bengals game, did I ever feel like the Bengals were going to lose? And with this game, my confidence level was about 98% until Jamar Chase's fumble. And I was like, oh my God, they're going to lose. This is the exact kind of game they lose. They're losing. This is over. It's done. I don't even want to watch the rest of it. And so for the Patriots just to fumble the ball away at the 5-yard line after losing on the lateral thing last week, like, my God.
By the way, you know who initiated the lateral last week? Ramondre Stevenson. He said it's up 2 weeks. And the funny thing is, probably a month ago, I think Belichick said in a press conference how much he relied and trusted Ramondre Stevenson, who had a good year, and it just seems like the wheels have come off. Breech, is Mac Jones a loser for trying to kill Eli Apple with that weird, cheap kneecapper?
Yes. And you know what? That's getting a lot more. The NFL is going to look into it. But
have you seen, by the way, that like
you can't take a cheap shot like that.
There's a couple of videos floating out there about like it's like Mac Jones is a dirty player because of like several things he's done. We can get into the minutiae of it in Slack, but yeah, I mean that's not great. Yeah,
you cut off Breech making his cheap shot Mac Jones point to tell us something we can't talk about.
Yeah, I mean,
no, it's okay. It's I mean, he's like Tom Brady does that stuff. Tom Brady would kick people when they'd sack him.
Remember when he did the nut shot slide with his foot?
He kicked Ed Reed in the old nether regions back in the day. It's good times. 2 Hall of Famers. All right, what's next?
I'll say a loser. Oh, Geno Smith is a loser.
Poor Geno.
God dang it, Eugene Cyril Smith
I
III.
feel bad. I was like, I mean, he's literally going to lose comeback player of the year. He was a stone cold lock for it, and now is like fading away. And you got Saquon Barkley lurking, CMC lurking.
Well, more importantly, Josh Dooley notes this in the comments. He's on a 1-year deal. Are you bringing him back if you're Seattle? Or are you, because they're going to have the top 5 pick, I think, as we sit here. Because
I think you bring him back and draft somebody. I think you do that combo.
I think you bring him back too. I think he'll make some money on the. Okay, here's another question: the Colts, Jeff Saturday, next 20 years, he's the coach. Eugene Cyril Smith III or Derek Carr?
I
might go with Geno.
I might go with Geno too.
Breech.
I think Geno's played awesome all season long. He's had a bad stretch. Now look, to you guys' point last weekend, you said, I was like, let's settle down on Geno falling apart. And I don't know if he like fell apart against the Chiefs. He just wasn't very good. And
it is the Chiefs, but yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I think he's just coming back to the mean, as we like to say.
Yeah, a little bit of regression for old Eugene Cyril Smith III.
Here, another quick loser since we're looking through these. Where are we at on the Browns and Deshaun Watson?
That's who I was going to go with too. Yeah, I think
because they lost to Breech's Daltons.
Andrew Gregory.
The man went 8 for 15 for 92 yards and 1 interception. And he beat Deshaun Watson.
I think that game in particular with the weather was just so crazy. We've seen that in Cleveland before, where it's like almost impossible to move the football, and so I don't want to put too much into it, but I'm definitely. I mean, you traded 3 first-round picks and gave him the biggest contract in NFL history, and he's looked rusty coming back. No surprise, you come back after 12 weeks of being suspended and 2 years of not playing football. It would if I were the Haslam family and I paid all that money, I would be like you see this. If you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/pick6, hit the like button, smash subscribe. 6 points, 10 points, 13 points, 10 points.
If that's all you told me, there was no graphic, I would guess, this is the Matt Canada offense.
I think they have 1 offensive touchdown, and like they don't have more than 1 offensive touchdown in any of those games. I mean, I guess obviously with that point total. Yeah, I guess.
How concerned should we be Breech about Deshaun Watson? Or is this a situation where this is just training camp and we're just waiting for next year?
I'm a lot concerned. This is 4 games now. Like Brinson said, they have not scored more than 1 touchdown offensively in any game. And so if your offense can't move the ball and you're paying a guy $230 million, and obviously this is a lost season now, so it's more about let's get him acclimated in a game to this offense, even though he's been practicing full pads since mid-November. He was in training camp. It's not like they pulled him off the street and said, okay, get in there, you're our starting quarterback. So I would be a little bit concerned that they haven't topped 13 points offensively in the 4 games where he's been quarterback. And, obviously have a whole off season. And, but if he still looks like this next season, then you're thinking, well, crap, now he's still under contract for 3 more years and we still owe him a ton of money. And we just mortgaged the organization for something that didn't work.
You say, hey, would you guys want to trade us Russ Wilson for Deshaun Watson?
The Broncos will do that in a second.
Yeah, they will. I'll say it again. Like for the money he's making, $230 guaranteed, that has to be Mahomes, Josh Allen.
Yep.
I mean, that's just true.
No disagreement there whatsoever. All right. Saints still alive in that division, by the way, but man, the Saints are just they're an ugly like rock fight team that just doesn't do a whole lot well. I think the only 2 games that we really haven't covered. So I mean, I don't know if you got any winners or lose. I mean, we say Brock Purdy's a winner, 37-20 over Washington.
He was at the Golden State game on Sunday night. That's how much of a winner he is. He didn't even care about watching the Tampa Bay game. He ain't worried about Tom Brady.
Ray McLeod had a 71-yard touchdown run. Chris McCaffrey punched one in late. George Kittle is on a heater. 4 touchdowns in his last 2 games. Apparently, Kyle Shanahan kind of called him out in front of the team, and he's really stepped up and elevated his play. Man, when he is on, that dude is so filthy in the receiving game. I mean, if you told me Jalen Hurts doesn't play again this season, and that's just hypothetical. I mean, obviously, San Francisco feels like the favorite to win the NFC for sure, right? No. All due respect to Minnesota.
I don't know. Hey, Minnesota doesn't lose games.
I just don't.
Last week I was all over that, but I mean, the Vikings will not lose a football game.
And I'll say the same thing I said last week. I just need to see old Brock play a game from behind. Got a rookie quarterback. When the pressure's on, you're down 10 points. How you react? But the 49ers are so good. Maybe they'll never be down 10 points.
My cousin's husband, who's over here on Sunday, Dustin, he's a 49ers fan, and I was like, man, like I love this Niners team. I think they're awesome. I think they're really fun. Tons of weapons, but they have a rookie quarterback going to the playoffs. Like you can say what you want, but I mean, the reality is, if you're a rookie quarterback, like Purdy's been awesome, but he's the first quarterback since 1950 with 110 plus passer rating each of his first 3 career starts. But a rookie quarterback in the playoffs is just a different vibe. Although, again, I'll say it again. The NFC looks like it is wide open. Finally, Buffalo at Chicago. Buffalo's run game has to be a winner here, right?
Yeah.
You know what?
It was like negative 80 degrees out there. Go ahead, Breech.
I was just going to say that, look, since Josh Allen's kind of elbow injury, the Bills have really started to lean on that run game kind of quietly. You don't really notice until they have a huge game like this. But you look at what they've done over the past few weeks. I mean, they went for 254 against the Bears. Devin Singletary, James Cook, both kind of going off. But they've gone over 100 yards in every week since their bye back in week 7. And so just because – and Josh Allen got injured in week 9. So it seems like they have been kind of a little bit more reliant on that. And it'll be interesting to see what happens if someone shuts down the run game, says, all right, Josh Allen, you need to throw 60 passes. Let's see if your elbow can handle that. Yeah,
the Bills average 7.3 yards per play, and the Bears were at 3.5.
That'll get you the W.
Yeah.
Bills look like they're a complete team again. And Josh Allen playing pretty well.
By the way, the Bears are in play for the number 1 overall pick too.
Absolutely.
So that's something.
Or the Colts, I think. Or maybe the Texans can just have a better record than the Colts. Sorry.
Yeah, the Texans, because the Texans they beat the Titans, so they're making their move out of the number 1 pick, which is interesting. But anyway,
you've got a draft podcast called With the First Pick. It'll be you do the show tomorrow?
No. Rick Spielman for the first time in at least 10 years is spending Christmas with his family. So
good for him.
Yeah. So he's on vacation. I don't think I'm speaking out of school. He actually pulled a breach and went to Universal Studios for Christmas week with his family.
That sounds like fun.
Good for him.
He's doing the Harry Potter thing, I think.
Oh, it's breaking. Ryan Wilson fired for revealing Rick Spielman's.
I can just see him walking around there.
All right. That'll do it for us, right? We're done?
Yeah, until I was going to say, I like to say we'll see you next year, but we won't. We'll see each other tomorrow night. So
that's right. Monday night recap. We'll be back. I have yet to find out if we're doing a press coverage show. We're going to pretend like we're not going to, but we probably will. We got to look at the playoffs. Sorry. I thought we kind of did that. NFC playoff, AFC playoff look ahead. Playoff picture. Thought we were going to get out. Let's get out in under an hour. We'll be fine.
I mean,
Look
we
at the
talked about it a little
AFC. All right, so here's the deal in the AFC. Buffalo is clinched, Kansas City's clinched, Cincinnati is clinched, and Baltimore has clinched. Jacksonville is the current 4 seed. Chargers are the current 6 seed. Miami, the current 7 seed. Lingering on the outside, the Patriots, the Jets, the Titans, and the Steelers.
We talked about how the Steelers need some magic beans to get in. I think they're done. And I'll ask the same question I asked last week. I'm going chalk, which is as we see it here. Either of you want to substitute out for 6 or 7? I don't think the Titans are winning 4, so I think we're all good with Jacksonville 4.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go. I think that the AFC ends up staying the same as well.
And Miami's not playing well. I mean, Miami played well for 45 minutes. We'd feel fine if they'd won that game, even if it was by 1 point. But Tua is troubling, so maybe Tua bounces back. They run the ball more, whatever. But I think those are the best teams, as we said.
The Dolphins have to play at the Pats and the Jets at home, and I believe if they win, if they win both, obviously they're in. If they win one and tie one, they're in.
I think 1-1. It's just going to be a whole bunch of variables.
Yeah, I think 1-1. Yeah, so pretty huge game between them and the Patriots on next Sunday.
Who are your 4, 6, and 7 teams, Breech, in the AFC?
I really want to say Tennessee at 4. They pull off the upset in Week 18, but they're just so banged up that
if you lived in any other city, you wouldn't be doing this.
And Jacksonville's been so hot. I think you have to go with them.
All right.
Baltimore, they have a 2-game, or I guess they'll have a 1-game win. The Chargers win Monday night. But yeah, I just think 4, 5, or 5 and 6. Ravens at 5, Chargers at 6, and then 7 feels like it's going to be a dogfight. I could see the Patriots beating the Dolphins in New England. It's a home game. Their season's going to be on the line. And then that would just cause total chaos. If
I'll say this. So are you going with the Patriots?
No, because I think they play they play the Bills in Week 18. I don't think they're going to win that game.
I'm going to say Mike White comes back in the Jets skin just to make it spicy.
Woo!
Look, I'm trying to figure out who's the team that's sneaking in here.
I just told you, Mike White.
No, but if the Dolphins go 0-2 and the Jets go 2-0,
Jets are probably in.
If the Patriots win out and the Dolphins lose out, the Patriots are in. Huh.
Okay.
Interesting.
But I think to Breech's point, the Patriots are not winning out.
Probably not.
I'll say the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins go 9-8 and get in.
I think the Jets could be the spicy team that sneaks in. All right, let's look.
I just said that. You stole my answer.
I was agreeing with you.
All right, yeah, go to the other side.
NFC wise, in the NFC,
the Eagles are out. All right, keep going.
Yep, Eagles have clinched. We have no seeds clinched. Eagles have clinched. Vikings have clinched. 49ers have clinched, and Dallas has clinched a playoff spot. It is actually kind of crazy because it's almost identical on both sides of the conference. Each conference is almost identical because you have the top 3 seeds have already currently clinched playoff spots, although they have not clinched those seeds. Several have clinched division wins. So like it's like the Eagles still have to clinch theirs. But then the 4 spot, you have a 7-8 Tampa team, just like a 7-8 Jacksonville team. That's one. Tampa's 1 game ahead of a 6-9 Carolina team and a 6-9 New Orleans team. And then you have in the 6 and 7 spot, 2 teams right above or at 500, the Giants at Washington, and then right behind them, nipping on their heels, Seattle, Detroit, Green Bay at 7 and 8. And then you have the NFC South team. So I'm going to say that Tampa wins the division.
Yeah.
And that the Giants get in and the Packers get in.
Yeah, I'm actually going to agree with you. I think the fact that you're going to Carson Wentz at this point in the conversation, you're unsure about Heineke, that's a huge alarm bell for me. And, Detroit and Seattle, I'm sad with the way they're playing lately, so I'll just roll with old Aaron Rodgers, Breech.
You know what? I'm going to just go ahead and disagree with you guys.
All right, what are you doing?
I am going
to go with the Panthers, the Lions, and the Seahawks.
You are like 1/3 right. I'm going to go with the Panthers. I'm going to go with the Panthers. Why not go with the Panthers? They look good right now. Looking like the best team in that division isn't much, but
that's going with them to win the division. That's where you're going with them.
That's the only way they can get in the playoffs.
Okay, I was going to say because they're a game behind the 7 and 8 teams.
All right, if they win against the Buccaneers in Week 17. That's going to be a giant step toward winning that division.
All right.
And then the wild card spot, the Giants at 6, I think. You win one of your final 2 games. They play the Colts in week 17. That feels like something they're going to be able to. I do feel like the Giants are going to get the 6. And then the 7, I am torn between the Commanders and the Seahawks and the Lions and the Pat. I'm torn between them.
Wow, you're torn between all the teams that have a chance to get there.
But I am going to go with, I mean, the Seahawks have the Jets in Seattle. I feel like that's a winnable game. And then they have the Rams at home. And I feel like that's a winnable game. So I'm going to go with the Commanders.
What just happened?
I don't know, man.
I think they beat the Browns in week 17. And then classic thing I say all the time. They play the Cowboys in week 18. If the Eagles already have the division wrapped up, Dallas is going to bench everyone. And the Commanders are going to beat the Cowboys second string to get to the playoffs.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
I think Cowboys bench everybody and Carson Wentz loses to Cooper Rush. So that's all.
that actually sounds
That would be
likely.
hilarious.
More likely. And he hits the 70% playing time marker, so they miss the playoffs and they have to give up a second round pick to the Colts. All right, that'll actually do it for us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Always thankful for all of you who listen and watch this program and somehow force us to broadcast from our parents' basement over the holidays.
Literally.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
For
Nice.
Breech's onesie, for Wilson, I'm Brinson. We'll see you guys later.
Ho, ho.